Pedro Squirtle Bañeres has joined me, the two-time RQ champion and Azir loyalist, and sticking by the Emperor's side for RQ Barcelona as well. Talk me through that.
Well, actually, at first, I wasn't going to stick. Part of me also wants to play something new, like for fun-related issues. I have been playing Azir for 2 consecutive sets now. And I was, of course, looking for some other deck. The thing also was that the other option I had was Kennen. And I feel Kennen right now would be probably the most played deck. So another important thing right now in Rhythm is that the best of prices and such is super relevant for the game. So one part of me, knowing I was already double qualified and my objectives were already accomplished, didn't want to actually play the best deck and try to go, like, put me into some extra pressure, when I also felt that my play level with Azir was kind of similar with Kennen, so it doesn't make that much sense to play another deck. And finally I found out that Azir is kind of my best deck and my best metal deck.
So what kind of pulled you towards Kennen? What made it so alluring that it could almost compete with Azir?
Well, I initially liked a lot Azir when it was revealed. I felt the power level, like the base stat lines of the units, was great. You are playing 3 might units on turn 1, which is something in set 2 no other deck could do. So that was super relevant. But it had some glaring issues against some part of the metagame at that moment, which was Draven. So I quickly dropped it in a miracle in general. But once the bans happened, it was like easy going back to Azir, which was a deck I also enjoyed. And I felt it was super underexplored. Like how people were playing Azir, I felt was a mistake I also made initially with Azir. So I felt I had an edge there.
Yeah, because I was about to say, because the way people are playing Azir is they are playing your Azir. You are the trendsetter. So what has changed with Vendetta then?
Well, I think it's still trying to fortify the ways to hold in this deck. I think right now in Vendetta, there are a lot of decks that want to go super tempo-oriented, like go out with right a win, score 2 points, try to keep on 2 points. Some decks have, like Kennen, have ways to try to supplement this with the harrowing combo, like going for 5 to 8 if they can. So if you manage to hold early without committing a lot of resources, like no going into a full hold deck like RB or something like that, or Vex, if you manage to break the point race or the point strategy of your opponent without committing a lot, then you are in a pretty good spot to actually win the game.
Kind of stopping your opponent without making yourself too vulnerable to being exploited. Like you're mostly losing out on tokens.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at Vendetta, what are some cards that you were really excited to be trying out in Azir because you thought they had potential?
I have tried a lot. Nothing is super excited. The card I most liked, like I just like the card. It's bad, but it was a steel pause and it didn't work out. So. But I feel the biggest upgrade is always the most simple one, and I think Handhammer, even if it's not played like a 3 of copies, has helped a little bit of the consistency and especially sideboard mapping on the draw, on the play and on the draw.
What is so appealing about it to you?
It's just an unit. It makes a rise a little bit better. It also helps sometimes in the hold aspect. Like makes cards better, is very well paired with Doran's Shield or Eye of the Herald. Like you are defending for extra might, even if it's vulnerable to decks that can have several units because they can go in with one unit and then go with another and destroy your buff. That's fine also because they are committing 2 units. And there are some decks that really can't do this. And then they are much more vulnerable if they commit to a single unit to tricks like back off, an extra guards, hidden blade, whatever.
I think they kind of make sense. Now, when you have been doing all of your testing throughout and you're about to head into Barcelona itself, are there some matchups that not necessarily worry you, but that make you sit up and lock in?
There are actually some. luckily, I don't think they are super prevalent right now, which are, they are the same they were like last sets. Both Earthreal and Sprite decks, like Lilia or whatever that cares about the Sprite, that they destroy your game plan. Like, my game plan is my units are more expendable than the opponents, so I can commit in trade wars. In the case of the sprites, they are even more expendable than mine, so it doesn't work out that well.
And are the first few rounds of the RQ then maybe a little more nerve-wracking for you, where you can still see a crazy deck that miraculously made it like 3-0?
Well, I guess so. I guess the first one could be a little bit more random in what you find. But of course, I think it's more scary when you find a random deck in a high round. That's when you really think he's going to know the matchup much better than you.
Do you have a most nerve-wracking series at a regional qualifier that remains with you?
I think that the game I was nervous was in my first it was Lille, in my first tournament I won. When I faced Alan, we were 7-0 or 6-0, I don't know. But facing him, I was super nervous, and I think I played super bad the game one because of this. I lost game one, if I remember correctly. And then I was like, okay, I have played this matchup like a lot. Let's try to focus, and why I'm being nervous. Even if I lose, I'm still X1. And then I managed to win that game.
What got you so nervous? What element got in your head?
Overall, I was quite tense that tournament. I was always looking at the best of standings with Azir. In fact, it was an inner joke that I couldn't imagine myself going X0 and still competing for Azir because there were a bunch of people X1. I was always a bit ahead, but if I missed any round, someone would be ahead of me. So I was quite nervous every round. Then it was, I don't know if it was the last round of day one or the previous one. So it was like the final boss at that moment. So overall, I was quite nervous because, of course, facing a player you already know for competing, and it was also a very bad matchup for me, which was Ezreal, made everything kind of bad for my mind state.
So coming into day two, then, where you are, I don't think you won the best of yet, but when you started in day two, but was there a sort of relief where, all right, there's now a little bit more of a distance, there's some buffer for me to work with?
Yeah, once you lock the best of, that's something that eases your mind. Like, at least you have a good pricing, especially for a first tournament where I was competing for this. Anyway, I believe I already locked the best of when I made top 8, so it was also very tense. I don't know if this was the round or the round before, but I know there was someone that could, if managed to win the last 2 games, make top 8 too. So I was like joking with my friends, like, I can't believe that even if I make top 8, which is crazy, I'm also still not locked for the best of it. The other player does it well. So it was kind of crazy, but of course, once I knew I had the best of, it was much easier to know I already accomplished something.
Yeah, because especially in the later rounds, you see a lot of players intentionally draw with each other so they can both ensure a lock for top 8. How big is the factor when best of pricing is not secured yet for top 8 to maybe flip it anyway and try and play your matches out instead of intentionally drawing?
Well, I think even if I intentionally draw there, like, the chances I was kind of higher seed anyway, I think were pretty big. I don't believe like if I intentional draw and the other player with Azir won the last round, that he wouldn't intentional idea to get top 8 because it's super big of something to happen. So even then, even if they don't and they get a higher seed, they still need to fight in the top 8. So I don't think the expected value of playing for getting a higher seed is so much worth, especially because you are kind of tired, and having some rest before the top 8 is actually quite good.
Then maybe the other element that also goes into whether people want to either draw or not, the seeding to get into top 8 and to decide who gets to play first. Yeah. How big of a part does that really play in top 8, according to you?
I think it only makes sense if you are already locked. Like if you are undefeated, and if you lose one of the games and then win the other or tie the other, then you are still locked in top 8. I don't feel it's worth the risk in these tournaments. Like it's not like you are 6-0 and then going for the 7 or 8 win. You are 14, 15, 12 or 13 games in. It's super high risk for actually the victory not being that relevant, because normally if you are in the position to ID, you will also have a good chance to have a higher seeding anyway. So I don't think the value is worth it.
I do want to ask about, because you're no stranger to top 8. I think that much can be certain now. But with Barcelona coming up, being your home ground regional qualifier, with you currently in possession of the longest RQ winning streak that we have ever seen, and also aiming to be the first 3-time regional qualifier champion, what does that pressure do with you?
Well, of course there is some kind of pressure. Like there was two kind of pressures here, that if I switch from a tier, like people could say it was only a tier. And also if I of course underperform, then it can be struck to lag or something like that. So some part of me knows this is not true, because of what I have accomplished was super hard on its own. But there is also this pressure and these high hopes. Especially, I have had like a lot of interviews in Spain, media that are not used to Riftbound, so they kind of expect me to go 3, like if it's an easy thing. But I guess that's something, of course, that is in my mind, even if I try to block it.
How do you try and kind of mellow out that part in your brain?
Well, just know myself that what I have done is already great. That my goal right now is to try to perform greatly in the regionals, like try to qualify for Worlds. So as that is my goal, I tend to think about Singapore, Barcelona, and LA as kind of training. So that helps a little bit. It's also fine to think about.
Is there someone in your personal circles that is especially crucial for kind of handling both how intensive preparation can be and then also what it can do to your mental?
I don't feel there's like a coaching role, but of course everyone close to me, like friends, my girlfriend, my family, help me greatly on this. So it's kind of a thing of just my close circle and being nice friends with them.
Talking about the more close circle, do they understand how intense it can be to compete in a Riftbound tournament, or is like, oh, there goes Pedro again playing with his cards?
Yeah, exactly. now they understand it more, but at first it was much harder. Especially my parents, they don't really get this. My brother luckily was to play Magic and understood the scene more or less. Like he likes collecting a little bit, so he encouraged me and helped me talk with my parents that I wanted to quit the job I had for 1 month. so that helps a lot. Also, my friends and girlfriend, when I explain to them, they are also like, wow, how is this a thing? And
yeah, because on the outside, I get understand why there could be some skepticism. Did that change at all after you brought home the trophy?
Yeah, it changed a little bit, but not that much. Especially like my parents and the cards I also still own. Like, yeah, I can tell them the value, but they still only see a piece of metal or cardboard. Like for them, it's like, okay, but be careful. Maybe this pops and it stops valuing, getting value. So yeah, there is still a skepticism even after all this.
What's the next thing on the menu that you really are like, oh, that's going to be the test of my skills? The regional championships, or is it Worlds? What are you hungry for right now?
Yeah, right now I want to think about the regionals first. I also think it's quite interesting because if I don't remember wrongly, Radiance is coming like 2 weeks or so before, or 1 week even from the first one. Maybe I'm wrong, but I
believe
super
so.
close.
Yeah, it is like less than a month for sure.
So it's super close. So deck building takes a lot of part. Also trying to prepare with so many legends, as best ofs are also back in the menu, and these best ofs are quite the big money. So a lot of people will try to go maybe as a team or individually to get best of Ari, best of Lux, even best of Garen. It would be a lot of money. So I'm sure some people will go with everything, and testing against a lot of legends while you are trying to deck build something new because of the set. I think it will be a challenging scenario.
So, I mean, this is a question that I've asked plenty before about the role of teams in preparation, but how is the team kind of helping you prepare, especially when you need to chew through the many matchups, just have some extra legs to do the big work, but what is something that you couldn't have prepared for or achieved without the support of the team around you?
Well, knowing how a lot of decks works without even playing games of it. Like, the important thing about the team is trying to overextend yourself. Like, yeah, it's impossible to play every matchup, to know every deck. It's time-wise, it's impossible to do it. So you need to have people you trust, and they are good at communicating the strengths and weakness of a deck. So some people are testing Rek'Sai, for example. I can trust that people to tell me, okay, Rek'Sai struggles against Master Yi because of this. Okay, Rek'Sai wins against Master Yi because they can do this to the Rengar or whatever. And of course, if there is a deck that someone finds out that is not struggling against the top meta decks, then that's something you now, as a group, explore together and try to see if that person didn't find a weakness or that the deck is actually broken.
I am curious, because we've seen a lot of talk about Metafy guides and how to spread knowledge online. Is there, how big a part of is that as a team? Are there any sources outside of the team that are valued highly?
Yes, in our case, Micelion, Team Micelion is also, there is a store in Madrid, which is Micelion. So they kind of sponsored us in different ways, like traveling and hotels and such. Also desserts and that things. So it's also quite helpful. We want to, because initially, of course, this was we were going to Europe tournaments. So this was much more affordable. But as we want to go to LA, Las Vegas, Singapore, and this kind of tournaments, we kind of wanted a way to have some money, some cash flow to get this traveling going. So that's when the Metafy worked. We also aim, it's a work more or less in process, because we try to do streamings, which are free content, but also we want to try to do some extra videos. But we want to make sure to have a good setup, because right now we really don't have it. So also that part of the money we get there is also getting spent on trying to do better free content.
Yeah, and of course, none of it can come at the cost of the quality of play. Like, it's a team that's looking to get results first and content second. But what I was curious at, because even as a team, sometimes you just don't have enough people to get a read on every single deck that's out there. Does the team have like gameplay sources that they use to kind of shortcut to prevent themselves having to do research on, like, Renata, for instance? Like, just
not really. We think more or less we know which decks are important. Of course, every time there is a tournament and some deck overperform or we see an interesting list, we try it, which is fine. But in the end, the decks that were good previous sets normally are still good or relevant. Like if you played Irelia in set 2, you know if there is a new card that helps Irelia, and then you can dedicate some time. And if you think that is something to explore as a team, then you say, hey guys, I know Irelia, Irelia is kind of meta, but imagine a deck that has fallen off, has been out of the meta for a while, but this new card really solves the problem Irelia had, so maybe we need to put it back into testing, and that's something, of course, we do. But yeah, there are certain decks that we haven't touched that, and if someone finds this secret Renata sauce and beats us all, then that's his achievement.
Yeah, and also you can't be prepared for everything.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
At a certain point, you have to trust your intuition that just your average level of play and your game sense is at a high enough level to even best unexpected game states or games that you haven't played 1,000 times. Now, I am curious, because from the teams that we have seen out there, I feel like Micelion is closely relating to let's say either an esports team or a football team, where it's really working as a team together, both from the social aspect but also the competitive aspect, where other teams like Challenger TCG are kind of more in the sense of like WoW clans, where it's like every man for himself, but we are bundling some of our efforts, we prepare together. Where's your preference throughout all that? Do you really think the way forward for teams in Riftbound is through the way Micelion have built their team?
I think so. Of course, there are different ways to think about it, and I also think an important thing to point here is that Micelion started with like initially in Lille, there were some Italian people in the team, like nice people. We knew them from Magic, but we found out something important for a team to work is kind of also be kind of that wall clan, that you are friends with them, you have something in common, and also like the culture. It's much easier to test and with Spanish people, because we can go to the store and test physically than to always test online, because people also have something else to do, so it's not always in the same hours. So that is also quite important for a team. But I also believe like going together and take it seriously as like a football team is also super important discipline wise, because sometimes you don't want to be playing a matchup that you have to. Like imagine you hate Aurora and you don't want to play against Aurora, but you need to do it. I need people to tell it to do that, and also to ask for help. Like, please play me this matchup, even if you are tired and have played like hundreds Azir games, play it for me. And I think that's also important, and not just going for everyone on its own and go for a best of, and then not knowing what someone in your own team is doing because he's kind of on its own.
I always really like looking at Micelion because there's a real spread of both backgrounds, but also just pure ages, with Diamond Hat being still wet from the egg, practically. Was like 18, 19 years old and already made a top 8. I think it's 19 right now, or 20. No, which is sure. I know he's young. Yeah, it was just absolutely wild. Have there been some lessons that you could learn by looking through the lens of someone that is quite different from you? Yes, of course, and it was also something important that the management team Micelion tried to do when drafting the team. That also age experience was important. So they didn't want a lot of young people. They wanted some young people, but they also wanted some people that maybe they weren't like great skill wise or whatever, but they feel they bring that experience and being able to calm people out, because when you are young, maybe if you lose a bunch of games, then it strikes you a lot in the mental. So that's something important to do. Like Diamond, for example, in Lille underperformed, didn't make day 2, and it hit him a lot. He wasn't expecting that. He got a good preparation, but sometimes it happens. You make bad results. And the variance is incredibly, like, people underestimate, because we see the same faces over and over again. The variance in a card game can be really high. Now, that's not an excuse, but it should make us appreciate the fact that we do see similar players in top 64s in day 2s time and time again. I was wondering, though, because when I was talking to Future, the pseudo team captain, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better term, he said, being good at the game is not enough to be on Micelion. We need you to bring something extra. What is that something extra that you bring to Micelion? Except for trophies. Well, I have put a lot of work in trying to get all the content together. We are trying to find some experts in content to just, as I told you, have some image of what videos to do, especially for the free content, because honestly, I'm not expert on that. So it's also important because, as you said earlier, our main goal is to compete, and everything I dedicate to something that is not playtesting is time I'm not working on my games. But for now, as we are not overreaching, it is fine. But I think that's what I'm mostly helping with. Also, helping a little bit with the training experience, with the training sessions, and that is. You previously mentioned that you were also getting some attention from national media in Spain itself. Yes. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because how are they approaching this? Because they are interested, but they're not very familiar. How does that work?
Well, initially I was contacted through Riot, so or UBS. I'm not sure like, how everything works. And then I had a name, and it's a girl, so she's always sending me, okay, this media is interested. And normally when I go to the media, they tell me like they have been trying to get some rebound into the paper or into the radio, whatever. But as it's a new game, they didn't have the chance. But luckily, as I'm a double champion, I'm Spanish, it has been much easier for them now to implement Rebound, as it's also kind of the media is portrayed most likely like, okay, how do you feel about this new game? So treating as a new game, rising star, and of course talking about me a little bit. So that's how they mostly approach it, like the chance to introduce their viewers, because normally channels that are focused on either gaming or Magic the Gathering or Arcana or something like that, like sections of radio that focus on that. So it's mostly a way to introduce, I guess, Wraithbound to the listeners of that podcast or whatever. And I think that's how they mostly approach me.
And when you are talking about, all right, you're getting some more exposure, your face has been out there a few times.
Yeah.
Is it still safe for you to go to your local game store?
Yeah, it's safe. And some people, they're still nice. Like, have been playing there for a while, so it's not like super fans. But they sometimes ask me for an autograph or something like that. But nothing that I feel pressure to do. It's nice to be
that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. Now, when we are talking about local scenes, I mean, would you treat Barcelona as maybe, some kind of locals for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I know there will be a lot of Spanish people. Like, this always happen in each regional, where if it's in Italy, there will be a lot of Italian people. If it's in Lille, there will be a lot of French people.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, so a lot of people love the game, and if it's close to you, then it's super cheap. So why not going, even if you don't aim to like compete, because it's kind of a big locals. So I think that's great.
Do you have anyone joining you in Barcelona that will be cheering you on outside of Micelion?
Now, luckily, I won't. Like, it's August, so a lot of people are out, but it happens sometimes.
Fair enough. Is there a call out? Because we've seen a lot of Polish fans show up very passionately for their players, and also for non-Polish players, for that matter. How big and passionate is the Spanish crowd that you are expecting at Barcelona?
I think they should be quite excited. Like, every time I have my top 8 or whatever, I have known, like, the biggest screens they do, there is a lot of people cheering, and some people I don't even know of, like, they congratulate me. So Spanish people is very friendly, and I believe, like, especially in Barcelona, if I made a good result, there will certainly be a lot of people cheering for me.
I am looking forward to it. Now, I think as a final little question before we start rounding it off, I do want to talk about the RQ Utrecht finals, because that was, in my opinion, was an exhilarating game that has been discussed much times and time again. How were you feeling going into that? Because you were coming out of, for some context, you were coming out of your series with Colin, which was devastating to see. There was an unfortunate run out. The cards were in your favor, but also executed properly. You're going into the finals. Where is your head at? Because you'll be playing Victor, which we haven't seen that much of throughout.
I honestly don't, especially it was open deck list, so we know what we are fighting. Victor is supposed to be a good matchup for us here, because your units naturally outclass theirs. They are vulnerable to tricks, like they need to leverage on Chinsao, and if you have like back off, discipline, whatever, then they don't lose on the tempo points, and then they can't come back if they don't double score. But this particular list had a lot of cards that hurt me, like Pickpocket in the sideboard, which was something I was surprised a little bit, because there was no Miracle, and I had like bad memories from Lille with the Pickpockets. But it also had a bunch of Sprite Burst, of a Sprite Fountain. which is also quite important into Azir. So I was a little bit nervous. I also thought that I had run out of luck from the game with Golden.
Yeah,
So,
a little bit.
The game was initially like that, and then in the proper game, I always see myself losing in the 3 games, to be honest. So it was also quite tense.
There is a point where we have to go to game 3, and now it's a best of 1. Yeah, you have side selection, but how do you kind of make sure that you're locking in for that final game after having played what has to be by then over 24 hours of Riftbound in the last 2.5 days?
To be honest, I was much calmer than in Lille. Like everything went much smoother. Of course, the last round is super tense, but some part of me tries to not think about it, like focus on the list, focus on what I can do, focus on my mistakes in some games. In the games I just played. So try to find a way or how my opponent plays to counter it. So try to avoid thinking about how much I'm playing for and what I'm trying to do. So try to keep that in mind. Of course, when the game is over, all that tension then it releases, and then you're glad you played well because you were trying to avoid to get nervous.
And finally, we have seen you win Lille, and you evolved over time to the point where in Utrecht we see you evolve and you come back with a beard. What is the final evolution of Squirtle?
Well, I hope, for now, I want to go to Worlds. I'm super excited to try to qualify for it and evolve.
I mean, that
finally.
is all fine and dandy. But physically, how will you be looking? Will we have like giant mustache? Because I think you could be rocking that.
I'm not sure. I have tried to go into each regional with a different hairstyle.
Exactly. So for Barcelona, it's something special, maybe in the colors of the Spanish flag, right? Could that work?
Yeah, nothing super fancy, to be honest. I probably am going to save because I don't have time between Barcelona and Singapore because of China. So that's something I need to have in mind. But it was kind of the
for regionals.
Yeah, it was kind of a charm amulet, like going with my long hair. Like I knew I wanted to have a haircut, but just wait for until the regional is over.
For the right moment, I appreciate it a lot. Squirtle, if people want to stay up with you, Pedro, where can we best do that? How can we stay up with Team Micelion, your streams, the guides, everything? Give it to us.
Okay, we have the Twitch streaming, so that's great. We also have the Metafy, which is a little bit better content, but of course it's paid content. And of course everyone is free to reach us, like in socials or wherever, and we will be happy to talk with you. And if you see us as a regional, then come say hi. We actually have a meet and greet in Barcelona,
exactly.
So that would be great.
Why should people come down there? What can they expect?
Well, they can expect we to be super friendly and nice guys.
I can confirm that. I can confirm Pedro is super friendly and nice. So definitely go over, check that out. It will all be linked as well. For now, Pedro, thank you so much for spending some time with me. Best of luck in Barcelona and in Singapore afterwards as well. All the best to you and Team Micelion. Any closing messages to fans, to supporters? Now's the time.
Well, it took me off guard. I'm always bad at messages. I'm never good at saying stuff, especially when I like in the regionals and such. So just a huge thanks and shout out to my friends, family, and especially everyone that supports me that doesn't know anything about the game. So they are kind of supporting me just because it's important to me, and that's super special on its own.
They're crucial. Can't go without them. Pedro, thank you so much. All the best, and I will see you next time